Hello everybody, my name's James. Welcome to the Planet FPL Gameweek 18 Deadline stream, and it's live. Firstly, an apology. If you've not heard from me this week, I've been feeling a little bit worse for wear. So if I'm a bit snotty, a bit coughy, or I have to fucking blow my nose during this stream, I'm sorry. But I'll do my best to get through as many of your questions as possible ahead of the 6:15 PM UK time Gameweek 18 Deadline. And for those in the chat already, you get the benefit of Happy New Year. But this isn't the last bit of Planet FPL content before we shut down. More on that later towards the deadline. Firstly, let me take you through the graphics on screen for you, as this will answer many of your questions. My team is top right hand corner, except it's not, because to be honest, I've only made my transfer about 25 minutes ago. I have bought Botman in for Reece James, and I've got Botman in the lineup instead of Ben White, who I've got as first sub. FPL Captain will get that updated for you at some point during the stream. It will just update at some point, I think. But yeah, I have bought Botman in for James. White is first on my bench. So I'm lined up this week as Kepa, Trippier, Botman, Cancelo, Salah, De Bruyne, a start for Andreas Pereira, Rashford, Martinelli, Anthony Martial, and Captain Erling Haaland, with Ward, White, Greenwood and Bueno in reserve. To the left of the screen, you'll see my crit score predictions for all 10 games this weekend. I am predicting a heavy victory for Manchester City, and a little sneaky feeling that Wolves might get something against Manchester United tomorrow. Top 10 captaincy picks in order of preference to the bottom right hand corner of the screen. Haaland's always going to sit in first, isn't he? He might not in the next game week. Maybe Alexander Mitrovic will be sitting there. Maybe Kai Havertz won't be sitting there. Alexander Mitrovic might be. I'll have a think about it between now and Monday. But yeah, I know a few people want to take on Haaland this week. I don't see any reason why he's not going to start tomorrow. And I think City could go big tomorrow. So I don't think this is the week to be playing. But I do think Liverpool will win handsomely tonight as well. Right at the bottom of the screen, you'll see next 5 fixtures for all 20 teams. That's rated, the colours are from the FPL's FDR. So if you don't agree with them, which I don't quite often, blame them, not me. And above that, you will see the benching dilemma screen, which I'll take you through now. That's where 2 players are paired together. The player with the tick is the preferred option, and they run in order from pages 1 to 4, and then there's goalkeepers on page 5. I will run through them quickly for you. So the player with the tick is the preferred option to start in your team if you own both. Adams over Perisic, Perisic over Pereira, Pereira over Trossard, Trossard over, who was that? Bailey, page 2. Bailey over Cucurella, Cucurella over Shaw, Shaw over Botman, Botman over White. That's how close the Botman-White decision is for me, I think, by the way. Page 3, White over Eze, Eze over Cresswell, Cresswell over Tim Ream, Ream over Dunk. Page 4, Dunk over Romain Pereira, Pereira over Castagne, Castagne over Sam Greenwood, Sam Greenwood over Hugo Bueno. And for the keepers, if you're interested in that sort of stuff, you probably aren't, because most of you probably got Danny Ward sitting first sub, I imagine. Kepa over De Gea, De Gea over Ramsdale, Ramsdale over Sanchez, Sanchez over Danny Ward. Those benching dilemmas will continue to spin during the course of the stream. Right, that's the nonsense stuff done through. Let's get straight into these questions. I'll answer as many of these as I can for you ahead of the next 50 minutes. Let's play in trees. Please try and avoid repeat questions. Matos says, hi James, would you play White if it meant double Arsenal defence with Gabriel, or sell James for Botman? Hope you and family had a good Xmas. There's nothing wrong with playing double Arsenal defence. I mean, I've gone double Newcastle defence, and I have predicted Leeds to score this week. There's nothing wrong with that. All I'd say on Reece James, key point, I've been saying this on a few bits of content over the last 24 hours or so, is I know there's a number of people thinking, right, I want to roll. Reece James might drop in price tonight. So are you going to force yourself to use one of your 2 free transfers tonight in any case? I'd probably make the move and get it done personally. But there's nothing wrong with playing double Arsenal defence. I don't think there'll be a huge number of clean sheets this week. I mean, I've got predicted for Liverpool, City, Chelsea. That's it. And I'm sure some of our Chelsea listeners will tell me that's quite silly that I've gone Chelsea. Martin Cumberland says, Kane or KDB? I have Haaland and Salah already. KDB, mate. That's what I've got. KDB in my team with Salah and Haaland. I haven't got Harry Kane. Apologies again for the tissue. That's going to happen a lot. Hola Stamos wants to say hello to everybody. Steve says, hey James, have a great 2023. Thanks for all you've done for FPL. You're very welcome, mate. Have a good one. For those joining late, an early happy new year. Ben Eddington says, hi, mate. Hope you had a good festive period. It's been shit, mate. I've been sick all fucking week. Greg Simpson says, hi, James. Is it crazy to buy a Southampton defender with only one clean sheet all season? Hope you have a good New Year's weekend. Can you swear? Let's be realistic about this. Southampton have some amazing fixtures. Next 6 are great, right? Fulham, Forest, Everton, Villa, Brentford, Wolves. You look at it, 6 great fixtures. Let's compare that with, say, Sven Botman at 4.4. Leeds, Arsenal, Fulham, Crystal Palace, West Ham, Bournemouth. Southampton's fixture's much better than Newcastle's. Well, they probably look at it because of that Arsenal fixture. But that Arsenal fixture, just bench Botman. So, look, it depends. You might already have Botman and Trippier for all I know. But, I think Southampton are one of the worst teams in this league defensively. At the moment, worse than Forest and Bournemouth, to put that in perspective for you. So, no, I wouldn't be going there. The one that may be of interest would remain Perraud, and I think those who went there at the weekend, if they started him, probably regretted it with the own goal. No, I wouldn't go there, Greg. You know me, I'm a bit of a fixture head, but I think when you can see shit, you should see shit at the moment, and until something changes, they're shit. Daniel Thomas says, hi James, hope you're well and had a nice Christmas. I'm struggling to resist the temptation to go with Perisic. How confident are you he stays in the team long term? What's long term? Can I be honest with you? I don't think Tottenham will add a player in that position during the January window. I think Perisic has finally got himself to a position which the World Cup has helped, where he is fully fit. Ryan Sessegnon wasn't playing well prior to the World Cup, so Perisic is miles clear in that sense at the moment. And I spoke about this yesterday. In fact, I cut it into the intro for yesterday's podcast, that I think we are probably beyond the point of concern with his minutes now. Even to the extent now that, would he get subbed on 55 minutes? He's going to be playing a lot of 90 minutes going forward now. And he could be a very, very dangerous and exciting asset. So if you want to go there, go there. He was amongst the players that I considered. So too was Matt Doherty, who I think is ahead of Emerson now as it stands currently. But with the caveat, as I warned yesterday, that Emerson may play them more difficult fixtures in the double in Game Week 20 against Arsenal and the Manchester City game, should it go ahead. Other players I considered were Cucurella, Botman. Those were the only players really that came into my thinking, to be honest. Ben Edinson says, struggling with who to bench to from Wilson, Botman, Pereira. From that, I'd bench Botman. I am not going to be advising anybody to bench Callum Wilson. I can say with almost certainty now, my answer to Callum Wilson questions will be start him or sell him. I can't be... My honest opinion is he doesn't start. But I won't advise anyone to bench him. It's just not right. Not right, because if he starts, he could haul. So I think that there's a case for many who own to sell. Because I don't think he'll start. You've got a great fixture for Mitrovic and then double for Mitrovic, and then you can reverse it in Game Week 20 if you want to. And I think if I had Callum Wilson, that's what I'd be doing. I'd be taking a -4 for Mitrovic, which just, even if Wilson starts, you go, it wasn't worth the -4. Okay, but then it's the double, and then at least Wilson goes to Arsenal on Tuesday as well. So that's what I think I'd be doing. Benching him, nah. If he's still sitting in your team, I'd start him. That would be my take. And you might think that doesn't make sense, but yeah, I'm a pussycat. FPL PTSD says, hi James, I've done James to Perisic, but is there any circumstance you'd do a -4 to move Wilson out? Other forwards are Haaland and Greenwood. Yeah, I would. I'd take the -4 for Mitrovic and I'd gamble it. That would be my take. Stephen Moore says, hi James, I know Suj was absolutely raving about West Ham this week. Raging maybe. But Sufelt 4.1 seems like great value. I assume he's a minutes risk when Zuma and Guerda fit. Yeah, exactly that. I mean, you've got competition with Ben Johnson as it is anyway. And obviously Kehrer has played right back quite a lot. So once Zuma and Aguerd go in there, yeah, there's every chance Kehrer could play right back regularly. So no, I wouldn't go anywhere near that, mate. Meninda says, also as well summed up by one of our patrons on Slack this week, I can't remember who it was, apologies, said I like West Ham's next 4 fixtures, I just don't like West Ham. Meninda said, did Shaw enter your thinking at all instead of Botman? He doesn't block from Wilson and gives an extra Man United asset for the possible double. The possible double. Yeah, I suppose he was under consideration, but I don't really want him for game weeks 20 and 21 City and Arsenal. I want something that I can play in those game weeks. I'd rather come back for Dallo once he's in the team, if that's what I decide I want to do as well. Look, if United lose to Charlton, then I'd say there's every chance we do get a United double in January. If they don't, do not assume that because we can see the problem that the Premier League can. This time last year I screamed about the Premier League needed to arrange a fixture for Chelsea straight after the Club World Cup, and they ignored the possibility to rearrange their fixture with Arsenal, which obviously ended up being right late in the season, and ended up arranging a game with Norwich in like game week 28 at like 10 days notice, because they were like, oh shit, we got a big problem here. So don't trust them to think that Barcelona beating Manchester United won't just make the problem go away, and if Barcelona do beat Manchester United, then the problem will go away. So, as I've said previously, and I'm happy to cover it more once the deadline's gone if you want, I'm not convinced that there'll be any doubles in January. That's not to say there won't be. It absolutely could be, but I'm not convinced there'll be any, and I certainly wouldn't let that affect my decision making at the moment. I think Wolves might get something tomorrow, as I covered right at the start. Then yeah, sure, Bournemouth at home is absolutely great. Do I want to look at Shaw for those fixtures afterwards? Not sure I do, and I'd prefer Dallo as and when he's back fit. So no, I'd rather come back for Dallo if that's what I decide I want to do. Big Geek says, hi James, have to bench 2 of Gabriel, Andreas Pereira or Dominic Solanke. Don't see all of them on benching dilemma. No, that's absolutely fine, mate. You can pretty much substitute Gabriel for Ben White. So I'd pick Andreas over him. Solanke, I'd play, mate. You have to bench 2 of them. So yeah, I'd bench Gabriel. I'd bench Pereira. I wouldn't leave Solanke out at home to Palace. I wouldn't. Patrick Gordon says, hi James. Hello Patrick. FPL Irons, my friend, says, if you were to currently bet on 3 teams to be relegated, where's your cash going? Forest, Bournemouth, Southampton, mate. With Everton's new manager getting them out of trouble. Ewan Green says, boys, hit the like button, get it done now and spread the love. Girls, can you also press the like button? It's a free stream. It doesn't cost anything. There's a little fun button. If you press it, it kind of just helps spread. Yeah, do you know what? This is a bit of free content. I appreciate this, actually. Hit the fun button. Hit the like. Hit the sub button. And I said I got more content for you later today as well. Go on, smash a like. It's all free. Cheers, Johan. Much appreciate that. Ali Bismo says, hi, James. Would you go to Mason Mount this game week or wait for game week 19? I've got Saka and Arsenal. Have poor recent records against Brighton. Cheers, mate. Not sure I'd do it at all, mate. To be totally honest. Excuse me. No, I would not bother with that at all, mate. Saka's just the Arsenal assets are great at the moment. I wouldn't be selling them. I'm in a position where I got 2, gonna get the 3rd. The plan is in game week 22. I wouldn't be moving them. Chelsea have a double. Yay! First one's against Man City. Big whoop. FPL Matt says, hi James, who do you think will finish in the top 4? City, Arsenal, Liverpool, Newcastle for me. Yeah, I covered that on a stream I did for patrons yesterday. And yeah, just that, I think, at the moment. That's how the bookies have got it slightly at the moment as well now. William Frick says, hello James, which 3 clubs from the Championship would you most like to see promoted? Well, I don't think it matters because Burnley and Sheffield United will be 2 of them. And I've got Burnley Sheffield United content coming up for you in 6 days as well. I'll talk about that after deadline as well. I'd like to see Blackburn come up. Why the fuck not? Steep lower tier. Steve Greenwell says, Formium of Haaland, KDB, Salah, Darwin. Playing 3-5-2. I am 0.1 from James to Robertson. Do I downgrade 4.3 Mings to 4.2 Thomas? Sufal or Malacia with my 2 free transfers after the deadline. I mean, I'd just come all the way down to Bueno, to be honest. Or Patterson. I wouldn't be bothering with those. I don't even know. Who's Thomas? The only Thomas I know is on the Man On podcast. The Man 1-1. Are you selling Reece James? Yes, I have. If you joined in late, the transfer's made. It's just not updated on screen for you yet. Botman is in for Reece James, and I've benched Ben White. So that transfer is made. Yes, I'm selling him. It's just I've only made the transfer just before deadline, and therefore that's why you ain't seeing it on screen, basically. But it will do. Once the FPL captain sees the message, he told me he'd be home about 5. He's in charge of all this behind the scenes, you see. Once he sees it, just randomly during the stream, it will probably update for you. Roseanne Fleur says, Botman in the bots. Botman in the bots? Miena Sidom says, hey James, bench one, Martial, Wilson and Andreas. Andreas from that, unfortunately. Roseanne says, congrats, you won versus Oil. Next up. No, mate. No. Do you know what, Roseanne? You're one step away from getting chucked out of here, mate. Honestly, no. Atul says, if you had to put £100 on one team definitely going down this year, who'd you bet on? It's open, isn't it? Forest, if I had to. But I'm getting shit odds. So I'd probably pick the outsider so might be that I'd probably get the best odds of the three on Bournemouth at the moment. There you go. Patrick says, hi James, hope you had a nice Xmas. Thoughts on rolling the transfer and dealing with James next week. Be more flexible with 2 FTs and we may get double game week news. Yeah, I covered this a little bit earlier in the stream. Let me have a look and see what statistics are saying about Reece James currently, because surely I'm going to guess that no one owned him prior because of his injury, right? So everybody's bought him at the same point, I'm going to guess, right? FPL captain just messaged me. He said, just got back, give me 5 minutes. There you go. Hero. Look, hero. He's probably listening to the stream, actually. Statistics is not working for me. That's not helpful. But the point is, Reece James is not going to make it till Monday without dropping in price, right? So are you not going to kind of force yourself into an early transfer anyway? What extra information are you going to gain from the 2 games this evening, for example? I mean, I just get it done, to be honest. That would be my take. Yeah, he's... Once the transfers in the next hour go through, remember there's a few people who waited quite late today because of, say, Arsenal press conference not till 4 o'clock and stuff. I think Reece James will drop in price tonight. So what extra information are you going to get? Or are you happy to let the price drop go? Just feels like it's just obvious. Get rid, mate. He's out for an hour. He's out for an hour. He's out for a month. It's definitely out for more than an hour. You aren't going to get any extra information. It's New Year's Eve tomorrow. Ain't going to be shit information tomorrow, I don't think. Unless Premier League decide they want to do the usual they did to us that one time and drop a double game week announcement for us like 30 seconds after deadline as they did last year, which was probably the highlight of the whole season for me. Roseanne, the answer to that is yes. James says, anything from West Ham, Ben Rama, maybe. No, I wouldn't bother, mate. But yeah, he'd be the one if you want to punt it. But, I mean, I can think of 5 or 6 players I'd rather just come down to at under 5 million. Even the likes of Joe Willock and stuff, rather than Ben Rama currently. So no, it's wanting to get something in for the fixtures. But, I don't know, them next 2, I think they might get beat tonight and then it's Leeds away. They might lose both of them. Awais says, should I play Wilson a 3-4-3 or play Andreas in a 3-5-2, benching Wilson, or roll free transfer Wilson to Mitrovic? Wilson to Mitrovic, if you do it for, I mean, I've said I'd do it for -4, so do it for free. And then obviously you're playing Mitrovic over Pereira. Luke Wilson says, are Fulham defenders like Robinson an option to replace James? Yeah, they're an option. But I wouldn't say they're great options. Really expecting clean sheets from that double. Leicester away, Chelsea at home, even Southampton at home. Expect clean sheets tomorrow. They give up loads of big chances. They'll continue doing it. Robinson has offensive potential. I'd avoid Diop and Adebayo because that could change. Kenny Tete I'd avoid. So it would be Ream and then Robinson would be the only 2 I'd give fault to. But they've not been of consideration to myself. FPL Dream says, what are your thoughts? And I know Dara Cohen, the Tinkerman, our Fulham correspondent, would say avoid. I'm certain of it. FPL Dream says, what are your thoughts on the possibility of Man United doubling? My thoughts are it's possible. If people want me to cover it more after the deadline, I will. But I think I've already summed it up. That I think there's a lot of scaremongering going on, and I don't think these doubles are as likely as other people do. Let me put it like that. Ben Costin says, Ben White or Luke Shaw? But to start this week, I'd start Luke Shaw. If I was buying one new, right now, it'd be Ben White. Jim Pro 100 says, do you expect Spurs to make any moves either way in January? I expect Spurs to try, but I don't expect any big name signings to come through the door. It might be covered defensively, and it might be kind of a loan to buy option. Not expecting a lot. John Bailey says, play Che Adams or Andreas. I'll play Che Adams, mate. Yeah, genuinely, I would. I've actually got him top of the bench in dilemmas this week. I'd play Che Adams. I'd play Che Adams because of what I don't think Fulham are all that defensively. And he's likely to be the man for Southampton if they have a good moment. So I would play Che Adams. The thing is, if you're at a point, you go, fucking hell, Che Adams. You might be there going, why did I get him? Fulham away and you think they're leaving him out. No, I'd play Che Adams. FPL Dreams says Botman or Luke Shaw. Well, I think if he was starting one of the two this week, it'd be Luke Shaw, wouldn't it? I think, again, if he was buying, I've just bought Botman. John Simpson says, hi, James. Bench and Ketcher or Andreas, thanks. Bench and Ketcher or Andreas. I'd bench Andreas, mate. Wouldn't be benching Arsenal's centre forward at the moment. Charles Hancock says, hi, James. Brought in Bruno on the restart from the wild card. Stick with or switch to Mount or Havertz for game week 19 Chelsea double. No, I think I'd leave Bruno in for the two games if you'd gone that way. There was nothing wrong with his performance the other night, and on a different day would have got some returns on that. So I'd stick with. And TJ says, hi James, hope you're feeling better. Who to play between Rashford and Martinelli? Jesus, find a different solution, mate. Tough. I think Arsenal will do better than United tomorrow, so the sensible answer, and factoring the ownership, the sensible answer for me to say is to say play Martinelli. But I don't believe that Rashford is your 11th best outfield player. That must be better than another option. Must be. Isaac Farhan says, hi James, Wilson for Mitro, thoughts? Yeah, that's covered, perfectly fine. Ray Qureshi says 1:31 a.m. here in Singapore. James, good luck this game week, and you too, mate. Fuck off to bed now. Daniel Cullerton says, on my way to Anfield, think Halls are coming for Salah and Darwin. I do think Darwin Núñez will score tonight. Always think Salah will score. Rohel Ali says, start Trossard or Andreas. I'd still Trossard, I think. That's probably a close one. Still Trossard. I think, having thought about it more, I think he probably will stay through the middle and up front. Some of his returns have been in the more difficult fixtures, as we've discussed in the past as well. So, yeah, I'd stick with Trossard. I think Brighton will score tomorrow. I just think Arsenal will score more. Rahel also says Wilson out for Mitrovic or Havertz. That'd be a Mitrovic, mate. Adrian Farouk says James to Laporte or Roll. There you go. There's the graphic updated for you. Thank you very much, FPL Captain. That's Captain with a K. Can't give my man a follow. He's a hero. Adrian Farouk says James to Laporte or Roll. Have double Arsenal defence. Trippier and Bueno. Can't afford Cancelo. Don't trust Cucurella minutes. Thanks, bud. You trust Laporte's minutes? I'm not sure he plays tomorrow. I'm pretty sure that Laporte does get back in for City, but I don't think it's a certainty. So it just wouldn't be on radar for me at the moment. Blocking yourself a really good third City asset potentially. I think Laporte's a nice one to go to if you feel comfortable that he's going to play. I mean, if you feel comfortable with it, Adrian, then crack on, mate. I don't. Dave M says, evening, James. Have Saka and Martinelli. Thoughts on benching one to play Andreas to target the Saints fixture? No, they're in too good form. And I think they'll get just as many goals as Fulham this weekend. And Andreas is capable of missing them when they come, right? Fulham scored 3 the other day and he didn't return, right? Elvino says, hi James, thoughts on playing Andreas over Odegaard or Martinelli given the fixture, which is the same question, and it's also going to get the same answer to the previous one, but thanks for the question. Dominic says, start Andreas or Wilson, please, thank you. I'm not advising anyone to bench Wilson. Simple as that. That's already covered. And Sam's asked the same question, so same answer, mate. Matthew Samuel says, evening James, just want to jump in to wish you a good game week and a happy new year. Chat soon. Thank you, my friend. Matt will be on Clash of the Correspondents Tuesday week for the Crunch 6-pointer to preview Southampton's trip to Everton with Sean Norton. FPL Differential says, hi, my team is, I'm not reading your team out, mate. Sorry, it's just too much in there, mate. It's really boring for other people. But if you want to give me like 2 options that you think, oh, I'm undecided, then I'll happily answer it for you, but I'm not reading out your whole team. Harun says, I've got Wilson, Solanke and Kulusevski. Which 2 of those 3 would you play? Can't have all 3 playing this week. Risk Wilson with his fitness. Yeah, Probably have to bench Solanke from that very, very reluctantly. Again, how have you set up, and that's kind of your worst options? Just think about it. Bernardino says, need James out as I have no defensive cover. Botman, White or Gabriel. I've gone Botman, mate. So there's your answer. And you can see it, top right hand corner on the screen. Team is updated now for you. Aniruddha says, James to Trent. Is it good? Why Trent is not even in discussions? We know Liverpool are not good defensively this year, but do you see any improvement from now on? Or Cancelo for next 4 game weeks? I think Cancelo does play tomorrow. Excuse me, but I wouldn't be certain of that at all. Trent's not a discussion right now because first and foremost, Robertson's a better option than him. And I don't think it's even in question at the moment. He's cheaper. I couldn't make a case for Trent over Robertson at the moment. And those who know me a long time will know Trent was, it's only 5 months ago, completely laughing at his price. I spoke on yesterday's podcast about Liverpool still having deep defensive issues, which is basically starting with a core problem in midfield. I think Trent's playing a deeper lying position to deal with that for himself individually and the team at the moment. And there's just no justification to pay that money for him currently. Is he capable of exploding and going off at any time? Of course, Trent Alexander-Arnold. We've seen it a lot. But that's why there's no discussion around him currently. But it means if you believe he's a good option, sorry guys, then you should go and buy. Michael Dawson says bench Wilson or Andreas. It's a bit boring this one with Wilson now, isn't it? FPL PTSD. Are there any realistic signings Everton could make in January that would help them get out of trouble? Oh God. They need a striker. There's absolutely no doubt about that. They need a midfield player that can contribute to goals as well. They need a striker. Someone like Ben Brereton Diaz from Blackburn, who's accustomed to not the Premier League, but playing football in this country. I think would be a decent signing for Everton. I think they were linked with Che Adams last summer, and I think he would have been a more suitable player for them than Maupay. I said that at the time. And obviously, if you could nick Southampton's forward, that might be beneficial. Chances are Everton probably look somewhere else outside of this country, or we'll have to look at lower leagues. And I think unless it's Diaz, I mean, they could do worse than ask Norwich for Pookie, I think. Proven at this level that it will get goals and stuff. And they need to think short term. Tex Villa says, hi James, the legend. This legend needs some more drugs, I think. Legal ones, I should add. Sell Wilson or not? Yes. Simon Sparks says, hi James, would you bring in Mount for Zaha from -4? No. Andrej says, hi James, who to bench? Perisic, Andreas, Saka, Martinelli. Need to bench 2 of them. Very reluctantly, Andreas Pereira and Perisic. Dergish says bench 1, Martinelli, Martial, Darwin Núñez, Andreas Pereira. Need suggestions. It's a common theme here, guys. I've got Pereira starting, but yeah, bench is going to be a lot for the answers here. It's becoming repetitive. Andreas says, good luck, buddy, and to you too, mate. FPL PTSD, what are your current thoughts on chip strategy? I mean, depends how it lands, if you will, which we can't see at this moment. We can start forming ideas together after the FA Cup third round and the League Cup quarterfinals. But current thinking would be use the free hit to cover the blank game week, which is the FA Cup quarterfinals. I think that's game week 28. And then wild cards after the break are the March internationals set up for a bench boost in the double. Triple captain is a little bit dependent on Man City's next couple of cup results in terms of I might be using it in January on Haaland. I am consciously aware that I may still be better off keeping that chip towards the end, where I'd need to kind of make some ground and go for someone rogue. Like Salah could yet end up with a really nice double right at the end of something like Forest and Fulham, for example. So that's a rough idea. But it's impossible to have a fixed chip strategy at this moment in time, because take that blank game week, the FA Cup quarterfinals, it depends who's playing in the blank, right? if City, Arsenal, Newcastle have all got fixtures, for example, I'm not going to need to be using a free hit, am I? It's going to be something different. Jack Brown says start Botman or Andreas. That I'd start Andreas. Daniel Cullerton says, what was your first ever Tottenham away day and what are your memories of the game? The first away game I remember going to was Sunderland away on a Tuesday night in 1990 in August. I was 6 years old. It finished 0-0. I remember it was quite loud. It was at the old Roker Park. And that's about all I can tell you. I was 6. That's the first one I remember going to. I don't know if it was or wasn't the first. You put it Sunderland away, was your first away game was 6. Yeah, Mum and Dad and I stayed in overnight in Gateshead, and they took me to this massive indoor theme park, Gateshead, the next day, and I kept giving them the slip. I didn't want to leave. So there you go, that's what I remember most. Owen Walsh says, James, my man, all the love. I hope Santa sorted Harry, and best of wishes to the family for New Year. No, Santa's lazy. He didn't come and give Harry anything. Harry got well sorted. Patrick Moffat says, sorry James, late in, so ignore if already answered. James to Doherty, Perisic worth it, or just roll with Castagno? No, I mean if that's your choice between the two, fine. Like I as I said near the start, and you've said you just come in later. Both of those players were very much under consideration for me. I've decided to put money in the bank. I think Botman offers me a position where I can start him, not start him, depending on how I feel. It allows me to potentially change things in midfield. I mean, my next move, for example, now could be Andreas Pereira to Almiron. It wouldn't be next week in the double, for example, but or I can get off Greenwood, or I can get Bueno up once I've kind of reassessed. I could go Bueno to Perisic, for example, if I wanted to do that next. There's a few things I can do. That's why I've decided to take the course for myself of that. And I think because of the Fulham double in 19, he's an easy bench away to Arsenal, and therefore the fixtures look better. And we probably need to stop underestimating Newcastle. They've been the third best team in this league this season. And I want to say the joint best, or maybe even the best now defensively. And no one's making any gains with just Kieran Trippier, are they? You almost need the second to get anything out of Trippier at the moment. So I'm well covered there at that moment. Who's next? John Cahill says, hi James, what do you think's going wrong at Palace? Best of luck for the game week and Happy New Year, mate. And to you, John. Good question. I think they've tried some move style, which I must remember that probably Patrick Vieira probably exceeded expectations on his first season. And they tried to evolve to more of a 4-1-4-1, which I'd spoke about this many times on the podcast, just wasn't working for them at all. They're always a team that's always difficult and awkward to play against. And then they've had games this season, like at Everton, beat 3-0 at Goodison, where, I mean, Everton well beat them, outplayed them. So I think they've tried to evolve in style. They've got some really good footballers in Zaha, Eze, Elise. I think it's probably just happened a little bit too soon for them. I think one of the problems is that they're better when they go direct, like Anderson's, and I wouldn't say long balls, but direct balls and stuff. The quicker they get the ball into the final third, the more dangerous they are, the more space the likes of Zaha and Eze can pick up if they're in deep positions. Whereas playing through teams, I think they're finding that more difficult. But I also think they've left themselves too open defence. That's been the big problem. They've not been as good defensively this season. Nowhere near as good. And I reflect in the summer, we looked at them and went, I think like their underlying numbers, they were like 4th or 5th best last season. They ain't this season. So defensively, they've not been as strong this season. John says, was wondering why my question hadn't come up. Sent it to Black Box by mistake. Well, resend it and tell Mark and Az that I said hello. FPL Differential says, hi James, which two should I bench out of Shaw and Doherty and Che Adams? Jesus. It's a tough one. I mean, to be honest, with the fixture from that, I'd gamble the Doc, I'd play him, I think. No, I wouldn't. I'd still play Adams. I'd still play Adams against that Fulham defence. That's genuinely my take. Ali Paxhan, sorry if I mispronounced that, says, hi James, live from Qatar. Would you make a case for Raya over Kepa? No. No, I wouldn't. I mean, if you're buying, yeah, maybe, but not really with the double that's obviously coming up. If it start this week, no, I don't think so. Chelsea got the better fixture, haven't they? So it's a no. Pre-warning that there might be a massive sneeze coming in a minute. Sorry, guys. This is what you get on the free shit. You also get this on the paid shit, by the way. Daniel Ferguson says, hi, James. Hope you're not too under the weather. I have Andreas on my bench, and I don't like it one bit. Yeah. That will happen. But it's subject to what you've got. It's probably still the right decision. It would not surprise me. If you ask me, what would you think Pereira do this way? 2 points. Honestly, I don't overly ever expect him to return when he's in my team. I think he's just ideal for what he is. So, I wouldn't stress about it too much. Ninja says, would you do James to Shaw or roll and play White? I hope you get better soon, mate. Thank you. Yeah, if Shaw's the one you want, and I think, to be honest, if anybody's clear in their mind in terms of the James transfer, do it. Get it done. Get it done. Chris Church says, hey James, enjoyed your Patreon piece on Gillingham the other day. Hopefully we can turn it around soon. Oh, really glad to hear that, Chris. Lewis Browning guested me, and I'm not feeling great now. On Tuesday I was really bad, and Lewis is a Gillingham fan. Come on, did a really, really good piece with me on Gillingham, who've just had a takeover. Guys taking them over as rich as, it's worth about 80 to 100 million, which in top level football terms isn't a huge amount, but it certainly would be at that level. But they're 24th in League 2. They scored 6 league goals. Yet they managed to beat Brentford out the Carabao Cup. They held Wolves for over an hour. They've got Leicester in the FA Cup next week. There's a lot going on at that football club. But I'd actually messaged Lewis in the morning. I said, I think I need to call this off. I'm feeling too rough, mate. Then I messaged him and said, no, let's do it. And I sat here because it was only an audio. I sat here in my robe. I had a t-shirt on, a jumper on. I had a robe on as well. He must have thought, what's going on? James is going straight out pimping after this. Janega77 said, had to move James because Dunk is my best defender. Got Shaw in. Would you take a -4? Wilson to Mitrovic or just start Andreas, especially if Mitro gets yellow? Yeah, I'd gamble it. I'd gamble it and go Mitrovic. Yeah, I would take the -4 for him. I'd do it. Ben Costin says, who do you think would win in 90 minutes, Argentina or Manchester City? I don't even think that's a question, Ben. But I'll answer it. I'll answer it very simply and say that the top teams in international football are nowhere near the level of the top teams in club football. Nowhere near. Let me ask you a different question, Ben. I'll throw it back to you, and you can put it in the chat because I can see I'm nearly at the end of the questions. Come on, guys, fire your questions in. Just no more Wilson or Pereira stuff, please, guys. Where do you think, Ben, Argentina would finish in the Premier League? Because it wouldn't win it. Go on, go for it. Let's see what you're saying. We'll discuss it further. Sheriff says, hey, mate, start Wilson anyways or Andreas instead. Thanks. Yeah, I'd start. If you're keeping Wilson and play him, sod that being on the bench. Play him or sell him. Birth Media says, hi James, Nunes will brace tonight, won't he? Speedy recovery, mate. Have you got the Wilson flu? I might do. It's been going on since Christmas Day, and I'd really like to get rid of this before I go back to White Hart Lane on Sunday. I'm all right. It's coming out of me. It's part of the problem now as well at the moment. Yeah, I do think Darwin will score tonight. I think Salah will score tonight. I really do think Nunes will return tonight. Really, really do. NK's put a question in capital letters, which I'm never keen on answering questions in capital letters, mate. But since Sharia, Martial or Cucurella? Martial, okay. Colbine says, Stones or Laporte for game 18 and 20? Stones is in the team at the moment, and at cheaper, I think that's the answer. Sam Barnard said 6th. That's in reference to where he thinks Argentina will finish. So Sam thinks Argentina are at the level of Tottenham. The bookies currently think Tottenham will finish 6th in the Premier League. Could Tottenham beat Argentina? Well, the answer to that's obviously yes, because Tottenham can beat Manchester City. To be honest with you, I'm not sure Argentina would qualify for the Champions League if they played 38 games in the Premier League. Really not sure about that. Ian Walsh says, do you think Blackburn will draw a match? Never. Greg Simpson says, depends if Romero plays. Yeah, but who's he playing for? GP says, would you sell Trossard for Mount? No. Oh my God. Steve says, Mark Overmars had a stroke. Wish him well. Yeah, no, we do, mate. That's really sad to hear that. What a player he was. I know he played for the enemy and stuff. Fuck me. He's a flying machine. Jesus. He was one of the first ones who he was just absolutely blistering. You'd come up against fast players, but they weren't necessarily good technically. My God, he was. He wasn't amazing technically, but he was just lightning. And obviously, he could play. Grew up with that Dutch culture and stuff. No, that's very sad to hear. Greg Simpson says for Spurs or Argentina, that's obviously in relation to Romero. What No Graphics says, hello James. One to bench, Kulusevski, Mitrovic or Martinelli. That's terrible, mate. Find a different solution, but he answers Kulusevski. FPL PTSD, what are your highlights, football, FPL, personal and low light from 2022? The low light is how I feel right now. Highlights, football. Neutral perspective. Those Champions League games with Real Madrid in the quarterfinals and semi-finals with City and Chelsea were brilliant. Had the drama to go with the quality. Obviously, the end of the World Cup final was fantastic. From a Tottenham perspective, I would have to obviously be beating Arsenal in the North London derby. The final day that clinched it was a brilliant day out at Norwich. The final whistle against Burnley in Gameweek 37, I'm shaking to pieces. Was glad to get over and done with. So the way Tottenham, to be honest, the way Tottenham played, the win at Villa, the win at Leeds, played some good football. Destroyed Newcastle. Really were playing some good football. So that beating Arsenal, I think, stands out. Obviously, FPL. Getting a bench boost score of 25 because it normally disappoints. Let's go with that. And personal, every day with a little boy. So always count my blessings there, mate. Low light. No. I don't focus on bad much other than my own football team. So I prefer to be of positive mindset. Who's next? Isaac Stairs says, hi James, Sanchez or Raya after this week to buy? Warders back up to rotate with bad fixtures. Cheers and good luck this game. Why are you changing goalkeeper already, mate? I'd be interested to know who you're selling, mate. We're changing goalkeeper for already. Did you want to go to Gaya really short term or something? Don't know what the thinking there would be behind that. I mean, of the two, preference for Raya. And preference for Raya because I wouldn't be interested in any of Brentford's defensive assets, where I think the likes of Duncan, Estupiñán can be. There you go. So, Raya. Chris Church says, international football is not much above championship level. Well, that's not quite true, is it? Because Argentina certainly wouldn't get relegated, and Argentina would storm the championship, mate. So it depends how we're defining international football. Let's pretend we had a World Cup tournament of the 20 Premier League teams and the 12 best teams of the championship. And guess what? You're going to see a lot of shit in there, aren't you? So I don't think that's quite right and fair. The top teams are good teams, but and it doesn't have to be Argentina. I think this applies to France, Brazil, whomever. I don't think they win the Premier League. I don't think they win the Bundesliga. I don't think they win the Liga and Serie A, maybe subject to who they are. And that's the relevance. That's all. That's where what I'm saying is the top tier of it is a little bit below the top tier of the Champions League, and that's also, by the way, extremely understandable when City, PSG, Bayern Munich, whomever can by players from around the world. And at international football, you can have a great team, but if your goalkeeper can't catch a cross, you've got a problem. That's reality. Adi Tour says Argentina would finish fourth as Romero would not be at Spurs. Would they finish above United, Newcastle, Chelsea though? But I'll take your point, Addy. John Bailey says, what's the bigger thing to win in footy, Champions League or World Cup? I still think World Cup is the most prestigious thing. That might get diluted and changed if it becomes biennially rather than the current 4-year structure. But most top players will get at least 10 chances to win a Champions League. Some, majority will get 2 to win a World Cup. So it's for an individual player, it's a World Cup still. William Frick says, at what price would you consider selling Haaland? At what price? What do you mean? As in, like in the transfer market? Or is that FPL related? I'm not sure I understand. If you're saying, well, I think Haaland probably won't be at City forever. I imagine he'll probably go to Man City for, probably go to Real Madrid for about 150 million in 2 or 3 years, I imagine. I imagine that's probably what he'll want to do. So, City got him on the cheap. I wouldn't be surprised if there's an agreement there that he goes not the most expensive. I wouldn't be surprised. Lee Tester says, Happy New Year, James. -4 for Botman and Mitrovic out, Reece James and Che Adams, or just roll and play the Adams and Ben White. The Adams. -4. Botman and Mitrovic out. Reece James. Hang on. I think they're selling Mitrovic on -4. I knew there was a reason why I couldn't comprehend them would not be selling Mitrovic, mate. No, that's just off the table. Or are you saying buy Botman and Mitrovic? If you're saying buy Botman and Mitrovic for Reece James and Che Adams, yeah, I'm all over that. That's got to be what you meant. Yeah, I'll take the -4, mate. Sorry. We are, by the way, about 6 minutes from deadline, guys. Make sure you're getting yourselves locked in. Andres says, last weekend I pressed free hit by mistake and I'm back to my old players. I have Ben Rama in my team and want to give him a chance. Your thoughts? I mean, if he's there, that's not your priority sell. Yeah, it's fine. Ben Costin says, I don't think Argentina would fare well playing a season, but in a one-off game, the passion they have to play for country, I think they could give City a game. Of course they could. And they could beat them. Of course they could. Of course they could. I'm not saying it would be a one-sided slaughter and they'd have no chance. Not saying that at all. But I'm talking about the quality of the football at the top level. That's all. Big Geek says, in Sky, I have Shaw. Thinking move to cash for the single game day on the 13th. Then Saliba on Sunday 22nd. Worth the transfers? Question. You need to see cash in the team. He hasn't got a single attack in return this season, mate. And therefore probably wouldn't be hugely desirable at the moment, as in him personally. But your strategy idea of what you want to do with the transfers, moving United player to Villa player and then on to Saliba when Arsenal play Manchester United, is perfectly reasonable, absolutely fine. Consider doing it with a Leeds player. Like, to be honest, for example, I'd probably prefer in that format. I'd probably prefer Pascal Struijk to Matty Cash. So there's an alternative one for you to consider. And you'll think, oh, it's because he scored the other day. No, honestly, have a look. He's good for tackles, Pascal Struijk. Birth Media says, thoughts on Enzo to Chelsea. It seems to be growing, doesn't it? It seems like a lot of money. Loved him as a footballer in the tournament. I thought he was absolutely superb. Really like him as a player. If, as some reports are suggesting, we're talking about 120 million or something, I think that's ridiculous. But I also think that money isn't important anymore, in the sense if Chelsea can afford it and they want to pay it, then that's it, and we'll just get on with our lives. Is he a very good footballer? Yeah, absolutely. Steve says, get your teams locked in, everyone. Yes, absolutely. And while you're there, guys, smash a like on the stream. Alex Mitchell says, James to Castagne question. Already have Shaw, Trippier, Cancelo, Bueno, and rotates well with Shaw and Trippier from 19 to 21. And this might be a rare case where I'd say wait, because you can watch the Leicester game tonight and then see how you feel, because presumably you're not going to start him. That's a rare one where you can learn information by just waiting until after deadline. So I think it's a wait. FPL PTSD, apparently Gakpo is coming into FPL at 8 million. At all tempted once he's available. It's not, apparently it's an official, I think. I'm pretty sure I saw, which that's the price we predicted he'd come in at as a midfielder as well. So yeah, absolutely very, very interested. Won't play probably till Brighton away. So it's Brighton away and then Chelsea at home. So I don't think there's a rush or a panic to get it done. So there's a couple of difficult games where he can be viewed there. And it might be that he doesn't get thrown straight in the team with those two fixtures as well, subject to who may or may not be fit. So yeah, but it's a great price, and certainly one to keep an eye on. James Anderson says, would you start on Ketcher or Andreas? It would be in Ketcher for me, mate. Isaac Stairs says, Ederson goal. Don't see them keeping clean sheet next few game weeks with a short-term punt and City coverage, but not moved by them defensively, to be honest. Double game week coming up. What are you doing instead? So I just give it some thought. Why did you go there in the first place? I don't know. That's all. P. Macker says, great stream, James. Thank you. All the best, lad. Get well soon. Thank you. It's appreciated. Owen Walsh said, Mr. Skypod, how many transfers you got, mate? Well, I bought a Kanji Wednesday night, so I'm down to 30. Jay Parker says, learn anything about Lopetegui's Wolves? Tomorrow could be a banana skin for United. Not hugely. I mean, I only caught the last 15 minutes, in fairness, on Monday. And the reports I had from the Wolves patrons we have were that actually they didn't play very well. So let's see how they get on against a really good opponent tomorrow. So yeah, I'm looking forward to that. I think Wolves have been disinteresting for quite a while. Let's see if he can make them interested again. Jay Barker says, what's the deal with Brighton's possible double or even treble game week torn between Estupiñán and White? I can untail you for that and say just get the Arsenal player. It's my take. I'll come back onto that in a second because it's right on top of deadline. So we've got about a minute and a half, guys. If you've got any last minute questions, throw them in quick. I can get them covered. I am at the end of the questions. Adi Tour says, actually just realised Argentina would struggle with away games with the travelling distances, but do well in the home games. Interesting question though. There you go. Yeah, they'd finish about 9th. Matt Morrison, Happy New Year to you and your family. Here's to a great 2023. Thanks for all you do. You're very welcome. Thank you. David H says, hi James, have you identified the best week to use your triple captaincy chip? Yeah, it's gonna be we identified it prior to game week 1, so I'll tell you it will be Manchester City game week 34, Fulham away and Bournemouth away. Okay, please don't take that as fucking gospel. No one's taking that as gospel, are they? That's probably the best case scenario of a Haaland double is Fulham away and Bournemouth away. Ben Kimmich says, James to Shaw or Martinez. I wouldn't go Lisandro Martinez. It's a dull pick. I'd go for Shaw if that's your choice between the two. And I think, guys, we may have just hit deadline. Yes, we have. Thank you very much for your questions. I managed to keep up to date with them, which I'm quite impressed with the state of my body. I think people will disappear into other deadline streams though because I'm not very well. But I appreciate those who joined in live in any case. If anybody's got any non-FPL questions, fire away. And I'm happy to cover them for a bit. But I'm not finished with the FPL yet because I know a few of you have mentioned doubles. So here's my take and opinion. And I've done this quite a bit on other things. I spoke about it. I recommend the Drafts pod. Go back and listen to that. 20 minutes I did on that last Friday. My opinion is unchanged. I did a further piece on the Team News stream, which all patrons can access from last Saturday. I did 10 minutes on it at the end, where I said some fairly ruthless things. My take is, and I'll give you the short form, I think Arsenal versus Everton will go into game week 24. I think Liverpool versus Wolves will go into game week 26. I think that if Manchester United lose in one of the cup competitions, or if the Premier League provisionally want to arrange them a game on 4th round replay weekend, yeah, sure, they could have a double in January. But I don't think the Premier League foresee the problem as we see it, and there's no guarantee that there'll be a double. I think should they have it, it's more likely it would be against Crystal Palace than Leeds. That's my take. The Brighton fixtures do not need to be rushed at all. The suggestion that there's like a 70% mythical chance of a Brighton double in game week 21 is nonsense. It's nonsense. Because there are about 15 midweeks where Brighton can have their games rearranged. And I know people saying, oh yeah, they have other games to rearrange. I'll give you a perfect example. Oh my God, they could have another game to rearrange because they've got Newcastle in Gameweek 25 and Newcastle get to the Carabao Cup final. Let me ask you this, and I'll give you a second to think about it. If Newcastle get to the Carabao Cup final, who's their most likely opponents to be? Man City, right? It's not to say it would be. Man City's the most likely opponent. You know, Man City playing in Gameweek 25. Bournemouth. Bournemouth could end up playing Brighton in Gameweek 25. There's a single game. If Man City Newcastle Carabao Cup final. I've looked through all of this. There are many, many permutations everywhere. Many permutations. And there is no rush to rearrange a Brighton fixture. The idea that Brighton fixtures need to be rearranged because the games that they could have postponed, Newcastle in 25, Manchester United in 28, and Manchester City in 32. Because what? Because they're high profile opponents. Newcastle could go into any midweek, they're not in Europe. Manchester United and Manchester City fixtures could go into normal midweeks. It's not when there's like 3 fixtures. There's 3 available midweeks at the end of the season. Like there's not a huge rush. Manchester United is a problem, but I don't think that the Premier League are thinking about their problem. That's my take. And I won't be surprised if a Brighton fixture gets added or if a provisional date is added for a Manchester United fixture. I won't be surprised. But I also will not be surprised if there is no new additional fixtures in January. My take on Arsenal-Everton going into 24 is it might get to the stage in January where particularly if Leicester beat Newcastle in the Carabao Cup, where they start envisaging a problem. And if Arsenal-Everton doesn't go into 24, if Leicester gets to the Carabao Cup final, then Leicester and Arsenal probably gets brought forward to 24. Arsenal and Everton could have been rearranged 6 weeks ago. Both of those teams got knocked out of the Carabao Cup in November. I see no reason why we're now the 30th of December and you wouldn't have notified Everton fans to say, hey, guess what? You might be playing on a Wednesday in January. I literally cannot make any sense of that. There's also the problems that's been covered several times over, where a lot of these rearranged games that need to be arranged, teams are playing each other in 21 or 22. For example, Arsenal already playing Everton in 22, Liverpool already playing Chelsea in 21. Liverpool and Chelsea can't go into a Champions League midweek, so they're always playing on alternative midweeks. That fixture can be played later in the season. Liverpool's fixture against Wolves can slot into game week 26. It won't go into game week 23, I believe, is the other available one, because Liverpool play Everton on the Monday night and then Newcastle on the Saturday, so it doesn't fit. But it can go into game week 26, which of interest would give Liverpool a double of Manchester United at home on Wolves at home. That's where I sit on the doubles at the moment. It doesn't mean I'm right, doesn't mean other people are right, doesn't mean I'm wrong, doesn't mean they're wrong. I'm just saying that I think there's way too much talk about doubles at the moment. And again, for those of you who've listened to me for a few years will know, like, I'm into this shit in terms of working out where these fixtures are going to go and stuff. And I just don't think we can have too much knowledge or understanding until at least we've got beyond the Carabao Cup quarterfinals and the FA Cup third round, and we've got the FA Cup fourth round draw. Then we can start mapping shit out, and then we'll pod on it properly. But right now, if you're holding there, if you've just bought a Brighton player because you're thinking, but they could have a double in 21, like, buy a Brighton player because you want a Brighton player, and that's fine. They're the 8th best team in this league as far as I'm concerned. Perfectly reasonable if you've gone and bought an Estupiñán, a Dunk or a Trossard. But buy it because it's the right buy, not because of a double. Similarly with players like Luke Shaw and stuff. So I think I've made this mistake in the past. You try and overthink the possibilities and you look beyond the fact that, for example, Arsenal and Newcastle were both just bloody good defensively. Like, Arsenal got 4 tough games, right? Brighton, Newcastle, Tottenham, Man United. Is it impossible Arsenal keep 3 clean sheets in those 4 games? Newcastle got Leeds at home, Fulham at home, either side of Arsenal. Is it impossible to keep like back-to-back home clean sheets? After that, they got Palace, West Ham, Bournemouth. It could be more clean sheets. So I think just make sure at the moment that you're buying players for the right reasons. That's all. And not hypotheticals. And I also think the more the Twitter community grows, the more, unfortunately, many people are in a desperation to be right and a desperation to be first. I'd rather be right than first. That I definitely know. But I think all I can do is share my opinion and tell it truthfully as I see it. And again, it's not to say that other people are wrong. But some of the stuff, and I keep seeing people quoting like 50% chance of this, 70% chance of this and stuff. I really don't think that's right, personally. And I think it's kind of false information a little bit in many of those cases. And I know people are doing stuff because they are trying to help. Like, no one's intentionally misleading or anything like that. But there's a lot of stuff going out there about doubles at the moment that I don't agree with. That's my take. I will get on some questions. Before I do, content for next week. Tonight, 10 p.m, straight after Liverpool and Leicester, 2022 Quiz of the Year, hosted by Tom Campbell, Utterly TC, who did our quiz last year. It's now become a bit of an annual tradition. Me and Suj on the answers. I'll spoil it for you already and tell you I score more than Suj. It's fairly fucking obvious, isn't it? But I think you enjoy that. That will premiere on YouTube tonight at 10 p.m, straight after Liverpool Leicester. It's already posted and the link's out there somewhere and stuff. So make sure you're subscribed. You'll get a notification at 9:30 anyway. 10 p.m, straight after Liverpool Leicester. Quiz of the Year. It's 50 minutes. A nice... What is she going to watch after the football's finished? A little bit of light entertainment. We didn't want to put it out before the deadline. And that will be our last bit of content for 2022. We will be back on Sunday night. Once I get home from White Hart Lane and watch Nottingham Forest and Chelsea, me and Suj will be on the mic. We're going to record about 7:30. YouTube premiere. I hope to have it up for you by midnight, but let's say midnight latest on Sunday night. The audio will go out hopefully about 10 o'clock or so, to obviously review all the weekend football, because remember, obviously it's a Monday deadline. Deadline stream on Monday will be at 3 o'clock UK time. I think that's right. It's 4 p.m. deadline, isn't it? Yes. It's Brentford. I'm looking at someone who's not there. Brentford and Liverpool's 5:30. So it's 4 p.m. deadline. So deadline stream Monday will be at 3 o'clock. Tuesday, we're going to do a pod on Pele. Obviously, really sad news yesterday. And we don't throw out willy-nilly podcasts when great footballers die. But I think Pele is certainly warranted of having a proper look and reflection on his career. The king of football, one of the greatest, and people of a far older generation than me, let's just say older generation, who were blessed to see him live. Many of that generation, including my dad, would still stand by and say he's the greatest footballer he's ever seen. And I would say probably the first iconic footballer of all time. And you may even debate the first iconic sportsman. It went beyond football with Pele. So we're gonna have a look at his career on Tuesday. Sky Fantasy Pod on Wednesday. Thursday, no Clash of the Correspondents this week, but I've got something very similar for you. I've invited Jack Toner, our Burnley correspondent, and Ben Tomo Thompson, our Sheffield United correspondent, who you won't have heard from a while. I've invited those two onto the podcast this week for a podcast we're going to title The Top Two, because quite frankly, those two are pissing it and tearing it apart in the Championship at the moment, and they've got a big lead, and those two teams are probably coming up. We're going to discuss what's going on with them at the moment and expect them to be very bullish about what's happening. Particularly interesting to speak to Jack, because obviously Burnley is synonymous with the way they played in the Premier League. They ain't playing like that at the moment, I can assure you. That's on Thursday. Friday will be the Game Week review, because obviously Game Week 19 lasts right up to Thursday. So we'll do a Game Week review on Friday, and then there's FA Cup fixtures next weekend. Patreon podcast this week will be differential show on Monday with our Game Week 19 preview. Tuesday will probably be Q&A. Haven't decided yet. Wednesday will probably be Tottenham, but might change that around to Thursday so we can take in the Wednesday night games. In fact, probably will do that. So Wednesday probably be a quiz. I think Gary Robinson's going to do something for us, our Man United correspondent. And Friday, I don't know yet. That's ages away. It's in a whole different fucking year. If you want to support the show at Patreon, we'd love to have your support. Recommendation would be do it on January, but you know what? If you sign up now, then I'll refund you so you don't get charged twice. Throughout January, all basic tier patrons will have access to intermediate tier content. That means everybody at basic tier, which is £3 a month, will have access to every podcast in January. There will be, we believe, 22 podcasts in January. I don't know the maths on that. I don't know. Was it about 9p a podcast or something? No, it's more than that. About 12p a podcast or something. You know, if you want to support the show, there's no better time to do it in January. So yes, throughout January, every podcast released in that month will be available to basic tier patrons. And you get all the usual shit. You get a basic tier, access to the Slack, my spreadsheet, all that stuff. Intermediate tier patrons will have access to all the advanced tier content, the extra additional stuff like the Talking Tactics videos, Twitter stories, the unanswered queues, the team news streams, of which they'll be free as well. The intermediate tier patrons will have access to all of that that's normally available for just advanced tier patrons in January. And there will be more for advanced tier patrons as well. They will have additional content every day in January, in written form, video form, serious form, silly form. We've got some ideas and some stuff that we're going to do in January, which may start with a little announcement maybe on Wednesday, but I can't say anything more than that at the moment. But it's going to be a big month. If you want to support the show, we'd love to obviously have your support on Patreon. None of this, the deadline streams, the content, unfortunately, it would not exist anymore without the supports of patrons. So, you know, when we say hit the like button, it doesn't cost anything. It really doesn't cost anything. These deadline streams are not going to go beyond the paywall, mate. And there'll always be free content out there, I think, unless Suj tells me I can't. Right, let's do some of these non-FPL questions then before we finish up. Because I need a rest, and let's be honest. Jonathan Albert says, non-FPL question, but you still have to play City twice. If it gets rounds to it and Arsenal was still clear at the top, would you want to lose to City? No, it's too long to go. It's too long to go. The only time I can ever honestly say we played United away in '99, and obviously Arsenal could still overtake United on the final day if United didn't beat us. Arsenal were at home to Villa, and we had nothing to play for. And obviously George Graham was manager, and sitting on the sofa, obviously how old was I in '99? Like 14 or so, 15. Sitting on the sofa, and Les Ferdinand put us in front of me. Me and Dad didn't even look. We didn't shout goal. We didn't even look at each other. We just looked ahead, just completely motionless. Like, what do we do? It was a great goal as well. And I remember Dad kept flicking over to the Arsenal game, hoping Villa could score so we could support Tottenham. Like, it was an awful day. So like, did we shout goal when United scored their goals against us? No, but like, watched the game. It was an awful experience. But no, it'd be way too early in the season to be wanting Tottenham to lose to City. No, I mean, it's ridiculous. We've got our own goals. Even if Tottenham were 10th in the league and had absolutely nothing to play for, I wouldn't want Tottenham to be losing them games. No way. We've got our own things that we need to try and do, and we need as many points as we can get and however we can get them. So when we play those games, it wouldn't enter my thinking of you're doing Arsenal a favour. We got to get results for us. FPL PTSD says, deadline passed, good luck all. What was your best Christmas present you remember getting as a child? Good question. To be honest, my parents hated me, so I didn't. I'm only joking, Mum. I'm only joking, Dad. It was probably things like first FIFA games or something like FIFA 95 or something. I don't know. To be honest, my birthday's 13th of December, right? So Christmas has never been a huge thing. Because it was 2 weeks apart, birthday and Christmas, right? So I don't know. I forget so much shit. I haven't got anything in my brain to store other than football information. You know that. So, but I'm sure there's certain kids that I loved and really was thankful for when I was a kid and stuff like that. But yeah, it probably would have been things. PlayStation. I don't know. Maybe I bought that myself. Probably not. I doubt I could have afforded it. Yeah, look, Chris Church says, go get some rest. I will do shortly. Therese Keefe says, good luck, James, and Happy New Year to you and your family, and to you too. Thank you, mate. Jonathan Albert says, we have City at home on Thursday. As a Chelsea fan with the league done for us, I want City to beat us. Can I be honest with you, mate? It's really fucking weird. Do you not want to like try and get yourselves in contention for a Champions League place? I just don't get that. Ian Parrin says, with their ever slow rescheduling of postponed games, do you think the TV companies have a greater say of wanting games at the end of the season? Yeah, it's a very reasonable point, Ian. Very reasonable point. Another thing as well, right? We think the weather's going to get a lot worse in the next 2 weeks. So is it wise to be rearranging games when we might even lose more games? To be honest, Ian, I didn't understand the Manchester City-Tottenham arrangement. Didn't understand it at all. It can obviously get moved back anyway, again, if either team draw in the FA Cup third round. I didn't get it. And actually, from a Tottenham perspective, the scheduling is not too bad because it's 4 days after Arsenal, it's 4 days before Fulham. So the rest times for us is pretty good, considering it's an additional midweek fixture, if you will. So shouldn't really complain. But yeah, I mean, I had tickets for the original fixture. I gave them back because I couldn't commit to going on the Thursday night in January. And the game might get moved anyway. And there's a rail strike, which I didn't know at the time. There's now a rail strike scheduled for that Thursday night as well. It's a fucking mess. And there might be that's a small influence as well at the moment, Ian, because I think, like, if they'd known at the time there'd be a rail strike that day, I don't think they scheduled a game that night. So there could be that as an influence at the moment as well. There's a few things. These rail strikes are not going away by the looks of it either. And I understand why a lot of it's going on. But yeah, there probably is TV say, like, how much can we keep to the end and stuff like that. You know, I'm sure Sky loved that with the Tottenham Arsenal game last year, and even Liverpool v United was a midweek quite late in the season, wasn't it? Sort of game week 33, I think it was. So yeah, it certainly adds to their end of season stuff, if you will. And you know they've got a big say in it. Steve says, thanks, James. Already join me, people. Thank you, my friend. Big Geek says, Sky, I have planned a lot of moves to Arsenal on the 22nd of Feb, but after that point, haven't planned anything and will have 32 transfers left. Should I try to use more egg double move for 2 Kane games? No, not necessarily. And to be honest, there's no point planning for Sky beyond that Gameweek 25. I mean, for example, I'm going to kind of put a spanner into your thoughts here, mate, and say, you're planning to go for a lot of Arsenal players, and I've said they might even have Everton the following midweek as well, but it might not, and the Leicester game might get postponed, and then suddenly they might not have anything extra. So be a little bit cautious of that at the moment as a strategy. But no, 32 left. Don't go too over the top at the moment. Don Pierce says, best James replacement in Sky. Thinking Cucurella for Chelsea cover feels very boring. Thank you and Happy New Year. Can I be honest with you? The biggest regret on my overhaul is no Newcastle. Trippier, 7.8. Share, 7. Saliba, 7.4. Akanji and Aki, 8 million respectively. There's a lot of good options there. And if I probably could have gone back and done it, I'd have probably been going in with quite a bit extra Newcastle, I think. I can't change it now, so crack on as we are. Colin Bugler says, hit the like, people, and good luck, everyone. Cheers, James. You're very, very welcome. Thank you so much, guys. And especially those who hung around for the chip midweek rearrangement chat. Don't take it as gospel. It's just my opinion. I'm not ATK. That's all I can do. Thanks as always for the support. Big love for everything you've done for us throughout 2022. We think we've had a good year. We think we're going to have a better 2023, which involves a lot of new things, hopefully, particularly from the 23-24 season. Stay with us. The next deadline stream is on Monday. Please join in for the quiz tonight, 10 p.m. Jonathan says, I've got to cover this. We don't even have hope for top 6, James. Have to say it how it is. Happy New Year, James. Happy New Year to you too, Jonathan. The idea that you have no hope top 6 is also a nonsense, mate. Keith Rowley says, evening, James. Just look at your home fixtures, Jonathan. Do you know what? Go and look at all your home fixtures and count how many points you have when you win them all. Because I think bar 1, you probably do. See how many points that puts you on and then tell me you've got no chance. Keith Rowley says, evening, James. Great content as per norm. Happy New Year to you and your loved ones. Thanks very much, Keith. Right, I'm going to go, otherwise I'll be here all fucking night and I need a break. Love you loads. Enjoy the football tonight. Quiz 10 p.m. tonight. Take care, everyone. Happy New Year. Ciao for now.